Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on The Flash Season 4. So what we're going to be going over in this video is actually the top 10 moments of The Flash Season 4 so far. So obviously we're in the mid-season break, so from the opening 9 episodes you could say, even though one of them was a crossover, we might talk about some stuff from that crossover in this video. So the opening 9 episodes of The Flash Season 4, we're going to be going over the top 10 moments from those episodes, and then come the end of the season, we'll probably do the same thing, but obviously there'll be much more to choose from, and this list will look much different. Now obviously I need to stress, this is my list. I did ask you guys for help, like give your suggestions, and I did definitely play in to my list, like how many people were commenting a certain moment from the opening of this season of The Flash. But for the most part, this is my order. But leave in the comment section down below your order, your top 10, what you think is the best, what you think is number 10, etc, etc, etc. As obviously that is the best way to get like a good census of what's going on with everyone that's watching this video. But let's jump straight into it. So at number 10 we actually have simply Drunk Barry. So Drunk Barry came along in episode 5 of this season of The Flash, when we had, the episode was actually called Girls Night Out. So we had the Hens Night, Iris and the girls of the Arrowverse going out for a Hens Night, and then we had the boys of Barry and the others from Star Labs going out on a Bucks Night or a Bachelor's Night, just to celebrate, you know, the last time, I guess, that Barry could really have some fun before getting married. Now obviously everyone was planning a nice night in, but Ralph decided to, you know, step it up a bit and took the guys to a strip club where we saw Barry get on that solution that was made so we could actually get drunk, and Barry was blind drunk, by the but just to keep it simple, he was blind drunk, and yeah, it was pretty damn funny. Obviously this included Barry running around saying that he was the Flash, but no one actually believed him because he was blind drunk. So I think there's a lot of people in Central City that must have been going around yelling that they were the Flash when they were drunk, so no one really took too much notice of it. And number 9, we actually had the Council of Wells. So the Council of Wells, we did get teased about like a couple of weeks leading up to it, so people did know it was coming. But one of the cool things about having Harrison Wells on the show is that we have all these different other versions of Harrison Wells from the multiverse, and this just allowed us to meet more. So we met like Wells the Grey, he was like a Gandalf looking dude. We had like the Mad Max Wells, who was like half robot, half man. We had like the Hugh Hefner, Matthew McConaughey Wells, who just seemed like a total sleazebag. And then we had like the Wolfgang Mozart Wells, who was like Austrian or German or something like that. So we met a couple new versions of Harrison Wells in this episode, which is always good to see. Will we see them in the future? I don't know, but just seeing more more versions of Harrison Wells in this Council of Wells was just really cool to see. At number 8, we actually have Cisco and Breacher. So Breacher is obviously Gypsy's father from Earth 19, and we did get told about Breacher at Comic-Con this year when they announced that Danny Trejo would be playing Breacher. So meeting Breacher was really cool. Just seeing him and Cisco's like relationship, if you want to call it that, or how they acted when they were both there, it was really funny to see, because you knew with the casting of Danny Trejo that the Breacher was definitely not going to be the easiest person to deal with, and just seeing how that relationship went up and down for the most part in that episode was really funny to see. And hopefully we do see more of Danny Trejo this season, because I thought he did a really good job as the Breacher. I don't know if we'll see too much of him. Hopefully get him back for maybe an episode or 2 in the back half of this season. Maybe like the 2-part story in episode 13 and 14, maybe Earth 19 could be involved, and maybe Danny Trejo can make another appearance. But yeah, it was still good to have him in one episode as Breacher, and just seeing him and Cisco's relationship and how they played off each other. At number 7, we actually have the Bus Metahumans. Now, some people might think this is actually a bit low on the list, like maybe it should be like maybe in the top 5, because it has been a pretty big part of this season for the most part. But the reason I put it at number 7 is just because we haven't met all the Bus Metahumans, and we don't really know what they're leading to, for the most part, in the back half of the season with these Bus Metahumans, where they're going to have a larger role than maybe some people might think, or they're just going to be like stepping stones for the Thinker and stuff like that. So they're at number 7, but the Bus Metahumans have been a pretty interesting thing to follow. We did know going into this season that there was going to be a new source for certain metahumans in Central City. Obviously Barry coming out of the Speed Force was the cause of these people on the bus getting their powers, but it was all planned by the Thinker. But we have seen like a wide array of different power metahumans. Like none of the metahumans really have the similar powers, which is good to see, and they all offer like a different challenge for the Flash and as well as Team Flash as well. So hopefully we meet more interesting characters that were on this bus. Obviously Ralph Dibny was a part of that group on the bus as well. And hopefully we just meet more new interesting ones, but as well as meeting the old ones that we had before, because none of them have died. They're all still alive, I think, for the most part. I don't think any of them have died as yet. And at number 6, pretty fitting that it follows the bus metahumans, we actually have Barry escaping the Speed Force. Now, once again, some people might think this deserves to be higher up on the list, maybe the top 3, and the reason I put it at number 6 is due to the fact that I think a lot of us knew it was going to happen. Like, we knew Barry was going to get out most likely at some point in episode 1, just because, well, they're not going to keep Barry out of the show for too long, and it didn't seem like they were promoting Wally West too much, so it must have been like, okay, well, Barry's going to get out at some point, and we're going to see him in episode 1, hopefully. But with Barry escaping the Speed Force, obviously came out not the Barry that we were used to, but it led to some really, dramatic and I guess good moments on the show when he collected himself and went to save Iris when she sacrificed herself with the Samuroid. So it was really cool seeing Barry, get all there, get his new suit as well, and speed off as well. It was a really cool reveal with him in the new suit as well. Obviously, we had all the different symbols that he'd been writing down. Obviously, we're still yet to learn more about those. I think we're definitely going to get that in the back half of the season. They're going to come more into play when, they're probably trying to figure out a way to take down the Thinker, because it does look like the Thinker has been working with some of those symbols as well. So I think those symbols are going to come back into play at the back half of the season, but we did get introduced to them as soon as Barry got out of the Speed Force in this episode, so they're a pretty big player. And obviously, who could forget, this house is bitchin'. Like, that could have its own moment on the list, but I decided to put it in with this one because it, really tied in with the symbols and Barry escaping the Speed Force. So this house is bitchin' should be number 1, but I thought, we'll give it to someone else, so sorry for that. And number 5, we actually have Meet Ralph Dibny. So Ralph Dibny was the new character for this season, sort of, I guess replacing Julian Albert as a, new member of Team Flash. Now, in the comics, Ralph Dibny, might I say, actually becomes the elongated man. I think we're going to be getting that in the early parts of the back half of the season. Maybe not him being called the elongated man, possibly, but definitely him becoming more accurate to his comic book style, in regards to how he looks and his suit and stuff like that. But I, for one, have actually enjoyed Ralph. Some people don't like him. I think he's a decent character. The only thing you could really maybe complain about Ralph is maybe his character progression is a bit too fast. He was this an asshole, to be completely honest, bit of a sleaze. And then in one episode, he's the nice good guy. But I think that's because it was deep down in Ralph the whole time, and just some bad stuff happened to him, which led him to becoming this facade of an asshole. So I think that's why they've done that. I think deep down Ralph was a good guy, and I think if they do introduce Sue Dibny, who is his partner in the comics in this season, we could see Ralph go further and become the nicest guy of nice guys. So we'll have to wait and see, but Ralph has been a really enjoyable character. And number 4, we actually have a character that's been set up since season 1, and that is Killer Frost. So I think Killer Frost has been awesome this season, seeing the storyline with Caitlin, as well as Killer Frost, and just the battle between them two has been a really interesting one to follow, and I'm excited to see where that goes in the back half of this season. Killer Frost does have her own storyline this season with Amina Black. We've seen 2 episodes of that. The first one being the episode I mentioned before, which was Girls Night Out, and then the mid-season finale, which you could argue was very Killer Frost heavy. Now, I think Caitlin was a very underused character in previous seasons. She was just used as this character that oh, I get in relationships, and then the person who I'm in a relationship either dies or leaves or is evil or all of the above. So seeing Caitlin actually have a storyline this season which is interesting to follow and isn't based around those romantic things is really exciting to see, and just seeing more Killer Frost is awesome because Killer Frost is awesome. That's just as simple as it is. So the more Killer Frost, the better, and I'm excited to see what they do with her in the back half of this season. And number 3, we actually have a pretty big one, and that is the Crisis on Earth X crossover. Now, I've involved that on the list because it was pretty Flash heavy. It was orchestrated by the Reverse Flash. He was the one orchestrating this thing that Earth X was doing. And then it was also centered around the wedding between Barry and Iris. That's why everyone was together. That's where the Nazis attacked. So yeah, it was a pretty big Flash thing. Obviously, this involved the multiverse, which was introduced on The Flash. We met another version of Leonard Snart, who is Captain Cold from The Flash, obviously that being Citizen Cold from Earth X. We met the Ray, who was from Earth 1, How they're going to explain that in the future, I don't know. If we're ever going to see him again, who knows. But then we also met a new character who wasn't named, but it's very interesting to see what they will do with her in the future. I'll probably have some videos out in the next week or something, or a video going over it. But we met this character here, who they didn't name. I think everyone thinks it's Dawn Allen. There is the possibility that it could be Jenny Ognatz, who is the granddaughter of Barry and Iris, while Dawn Allen is one of the children of Barry and Iris. So Barry and Iris have twins, Dawn and Dawn Allen. So a lot of people think, along with myself, that this is actually Dawn Allen, and we will see her at some point later this season. But they just set that up out of the blue, and they decided to do it in the crossover, but it fit. Like, it would fit that she would come back to see her parents' wedding, or even possibly her grandparents' wedding, if she is Jenny Ognatz. So they did plant some little seeds in the crossover, which I thought was really great, along with having some great Flash moments and Flash characters standing up and taking the limelight. And number 2, we have the Thinker's origins. Not just the Thinker, you can include the Thinker in this if you wanted to, but to keep it simple, the Thinker's origins, which I thought were awesome. So I loved episode 7, the episode before the crossover, where we learned what Clifford DeVoe was doing, why he was doing it, how he went about doing it, and the decline after he built that thinking cap into becoming the Thinker, like that slow degrade, which did make you relate to the character. I think at this point, you could understand why Clifford DeVoe was doing what he was doing, and you sort of felt bad for him when he started to decline and just become this shriveled up piece of meat, essentially. A very smart piece of meat, but the rest of his body was just becoming useless, and it wasn't really worth it to him. But just seeing the relationship between him and his wife, how they were just really a normal couple, like obviously very smart, but for the most part just a normal couple together, living their life, doing their jobs and stuff like that. And just seeing how she reacted to his decline, how she was very faithful to him and also very committed as well. So just seeing that happen, seeing that play out, does plan a lot of stuff for later on this season. Obviously the thing we'll talk about in number 1 is going to be interesting to follow as well, in accordance with this as well. But I did like the Thinker's origins. I think a lot of people do think it was the best episode of this season. I think it was as well. I think this episode, or maybe episode 4 or 3 as well, were pretty damn good as well. So it was a very strong episode, and it did basically give us a crash course on who the Thinker was without rushing it. Like, it's pretty interesting to do it all in one episode and make you realize what everything is in one episode. Without actually making it feel rushed and bad. Like, I thought it was actually a really good episode, structured well, but gave you everything you needed to know about the Thinker in regards to what he was doing, why he was doing it, and then his decline into becoming the Thinker from Clifford DeVoe. So I thought it was really done pretty damn well. And then at number 1, I think a lot of people might have been able to guess what this was. It was actually the last moment we've seen on The Flash so far for this season, seeing it is the mid-season premiere, and that was Barry getting arrested. Now, I put this at number 1 because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it. Someone out there might be like, oh, you're an idiot. This was definitely going to happen in the mid-season premiere. Are you an idiot? Do you not watch the show? Are you dumb? But the thing is, I thought this was going to actually happen at the end of the season. I thought it would be like the last resort for Clifford DeVoe. He would actually set everything up, so if he did fail, Barry would still be punished, and he would set it up so he would, you know, if he died, he would plant evidence and stuff like that to make it look like Barry had murdered him. But at the end of the season, and it was almost like a season cliffhanger. So the cliffhanger for the end of the season, like we had with Barry going into the Speed Force at the end of season 3, Barry creating Flashpoint at the end of season 2, things, at the end of season 2, at the end of season 2 and stuff like that. Little cliffhangers like that. I thought that's what they were going to do with the whole Barry murdering Clifford DeVoe. But the fact that they did it in the mid-season finale caught me off guard, and it did it in a really smart way in what Clifford DeVoe was doing, like transporting his mind or transferring his mind into Dominic, the new metahuman we'd met that episode, and we thought he might have been like a new friend of Team Flash, but in fact, it's actually, you know, Clifford DeVoe in disguise. But it also sets up Barry being in this sticky situation, like a very sticky situation that we're obviously going to see play out in the first part of the back half of this season. And I think it's just really great. Like, I think it's actually good writing. Hopefully they don't keep it for too long, but try to keep the appropriate amount of time on it. Like, try not to rush it, but try not to spend too much time on it as well. And make things logical as well. Like, don't make it written like a kid's show and stuff like that. Actually make it smartly written. And I think they actually might do that. So I'm actually looking forward to it. And yeah, it just caught me off guard, and I love it when shows do that. Like, make you think one thing's gonna happen, or expect this thing to happen at a different point in time, and then they just go, hey, here it is, it's right here, right now, enjoy it. Let it surprise you. I love it when shows do that, and I think The Flash do that really well for their mid-season finale, and that's why Barry getting arrested is #1 on my list. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'll be awesome if you could drop a like on the video to show support for this top 10 countdown of sorts. Obviously, let me know in the comments section down below your different opinions, as well as what your top 10 list would be. Do you disagree with certain points I've made, where I've put certain choices on the list? Just leave your top 10, and don't have to use my choices in your top 10. You could add a different moment as well. Like, you could put Gypsy's lewd video message as one of the choices on the list if you wanted to. But yeah, leave your top 10 in the comments section down below, as I am very interested to see what everyone else has to say. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.